Hey fish fans, Raina Mermaid here. Today I'm going to be measuring for my new silicone mertailor tail. Before we get into that though, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe. Click the bell if you want to get a notification in your email. Also, take a moment, check us out on patreon.com/Raina Mermaid. Come and check out all the really awesome stuff that we're putting out there for as little as $2 a month. You can help us make better videos and get lots of really cool things in return, including program planning materials for your mermaid business. So today, I'm going to be measuring for my new custom silicone mertailor tail. I have not gotten a custom in my measurements design since 2015. Was it 2015? The start of 2015, I think, yeah. And I had given my measurements in like 2014. So it's 2019 now. I haven't given measurements in 5 years. And I was in my 20s then. I'm in my 30s now. So my lovely silicone merbella tail that I have here, silicone does stretch, but I was 125 pounds when I wore this mermaid tail. I am not 125 pounds anymore. I now have my 30s body. So I will have to admit to you that even though I put in my order for my mertailor tail in January, I asked Candy if I could wait until closer to the development of it to give my measurements because I wanted to give my body a chance to calm down. Back in January, I had just had a surgery and I was experiencing a lot of bloating and I just couldn't really consistently be precise with my body. I've got a little lump of kitty down here that you might see at some point. I just want to say something about weight and mermaid tails though. A lot of people say to me that they're gonna get their mermaid tail when they lose the weight, when they lose the weight. The mermaid tail might help you lose weight. Like, you don't have to wait to live your life until you have the perfect body or your goal body. Like, your life is going to pass you by. And I have had my goal body before. 2 years ago I did that. I was able to do that through personal training and stuff, but then I had a relapse of my illness and it went the other way and now I'm coming back around again. And could you imagine if I waited all of that time? Like, I wouldn't be a mermaid. So please don't feel like you have to wait to be like this skinny little mermaid to be able to fit in a mermaid tail. Get one with your measurements and you can get it taken in if you lose the weight, or there's other ways you can cope by wearing leggings inside, or maybe in the time it takes to lose the weight you might be able to save up for another tail. So please, 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 please don't put your mermaid dreams on hold because of weight. Alright, so before you get measuring, there are some things that you are going to need. First of all, you're going to need a helper. Helper! 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 Yes, you definitely need 2 people to do this. It's really difficult, and one of the things that mertailor actually tells you is that you can mess up your measurements if you're the one doing the bending and trying to measure yourself. The next thing you're going to need, if you want to hold that out, Mr. Merwrangler, is an actual measuring tape, not like something you would use for construction purposes, but something that's actually made for seamstresses. And it has to be ribbon style, it needs to be able to go flat, and you should always check and make sure it's not cut off on the end, because one of the first ones I grabbed actually was missing 2 inches by mistake. So it's good to make sure it's all the way through. You should have a pen and you should print off your measurement sheets with your instructions, but also it's a lot easier to write it down and then put it online than to try and have someone type it on the computer first. And it's really good to have the instructions with you because even though you read them once, if you actually have them and you're working through them, you're going to have less of a chance of a mistake. And then my suggestion is also to get something that you can use to mark on your body with, to mark the different landing points that you're going to be measuring with. So I've got an eye pencil here because it's easy to wash off and it's easy for Sean to use, so I'll give that to Sean. We're going to be able to make marks. And for the purpose of this video, I put on some mermaid shorts so I could take it. You want to wear something similar to what you would be wearing inside your mermaid tail, so bathing suit bottoms, something like that. You shouldn't do your measurements over top of a pair of pants or jeans or something like that. That's going to distort your measurements. So I have some tips here from Candy that we're going to talk about. So that was the first one, is have someone with you. You don't want to be bending over. The next is that you should provide your actual measurements to the nearest 1/4. Don't try to do any math or changing things in your head because you want something to be tighter. Leave that up to mertailor because when he's making the tail, he is accounting for that stretch in the silicone. You have to give him your accurate measurements and trust that he knows how to do the math. He's been doing this since he's been what?
18?
Like lower than like 15,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So your measurements should be taken with your legs together, but not jammed together. If you jam them together, it's going to be that tight and then your legs are going to be jammed together like this when you're swimming. You actually need to allow for some space for your feet to go into the foot pockets, and you want a little bit of space for your knees to be able to move around a lot. Some mermaids who do their tails too tight end up with really bad blisters on their knees and ankles and really bad pain. So it says here to put your legs together, standing flat on the floor. Your feet should be about 1 inch apart, and your knees and calves should be comfortable while standing in this position, because that's how it's going to be inside your tail. When I had my first silicone tail from Merbella's and my second silicone tail made, I decided to have my feet just slightly apart more because I liked having wider ankles. I found it easier to get my arm in, to get the foot straps on. I really didn't care that I had an ankle bulge. It just made it way more comfortable. And the next big point that's on this list here, and there's like many sub-bullets, is the waist. So I'm going to put this here for a second. Basically what Candy is saying is that you decide where your waist is. And one mistake that a lot of mermaids make is forgetting that the seams of your tail are on the side. This is a flat construction. It means it's 2 pieces put together. Whereas if you look at my shorts, I have a seam right down the bum, and that allows for the contour. This is different. It doesn't allow for the contour, which is why you have to give your exact measurements, and you have to be careful. So if you go really low for your waist, your tail might fit you perfectly if you're standing like this, but the second you go to bend, it's gonna pull it down, and we don't want to be pulling the tail down. So my recommendation is usually to measure a little bit higher. Now for me personally, I really like high-waisted tails because I've got what I call a kangaroo pouch, and when I'm sitting, I tend to have a big bulge here, and I feel a little more comfortable if I have a high-waisted tail and it kind of covers that, and I don't really have to worry about the mermaid muffin top where everything kind of comes out over top. I also find it's better for swimming. I have less drag, it doesn't catch, it's not sliding down my bum. So in order for me to figure out where I want to put my waist, Sean and I are going to hold up my tail that I have now and see what the waist to floor measurement is. So we want to have it flat, because that would be as if my feet were in it. And so it looks like it's about here, and I'm thinking I'll go just a tiny bit higher. So do you want to put a mark there? Awesome. It's not very sharp, is it? Yeah. So as you can see, I've decided that I'm going to put my waist here. This is a little bit higher than maybe what other people would do. Some people think their waist means it should be right at their belly button, right above, right below. Just remember that if you go below your belly button, that tail's going to go down. So that is that's where we're going to put my natural waist. So I'm going to start with this, and we're going to do my measurements twice. Stand against a wall, have the person assisting you mark the vertical measurements for your waist, hips, butt, mid-thigh, knees, calves, ankles on the wall. Well, we're not going to mark on the wall, we're marking on me, but you could mark it on the wall or tape. Let's see. The measurements are all relative and will work as long as where you measure down is where you measure around. So that's why Sean and I are putting these marks on my body, because when he goes to measure around, he's going to start from those marks. So I think what we'll do is we've got my waist. Now we're going to do my hips and my butt. So hips are the widest part, and that's going to be right here. So you can put a mark right there on my clothes.
Right here, yeah.
I can feel my hip bone right there.
Yeah.
I would put it there.
Yeah.
And just
mark right there?
yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Then we're gonna do your butt, which is usually the widest part of your butt, so we might actually need to put the tape on me to figure out where the widest part is.
Sure.
Slide it up and down a little bit, and we'll put the mark. So we want to go down because it's the butt.
Right.
Yeah, and we want the tape to go flat, so it's curling a little bit there. So don't worry too much about the number, Shawnee, for right now. So yeah, I'd say that's my butt. That's my biggest part. Right on that line, I would put a mark there. Hi, Charlie.
Looks like.
I've got my finger there.
I just remember I dropped it.
Yeah, that's gonna be my butt. So now we want to go to the thickest part of my thighs. So I'll make sure I've got my feet together the way they're supposed to be. You'll probably find this a lot easier if you stand against a wall. That's gonna keep sliding. Do you need my hand? Would you say that's my thickest part? My butt, well, that's more my butt up there. As long as we make them relative. And then my knees.
I don't know what these are.
Yeah, and I think knees and ankles tend to be very much the same in like every tail that gets measured. They're maybe like an inch or so different.
Yep.
So that's knees. Then we want to do the thickest part of my calves. And like I said, I have my feet a little bit further apart because I actually don't want my feet to be super stuck together. It's still an inch though. And my ankles, we can do my ankles. My ankles are my ankles, so.
Yep. When you get a little bit, I think you're fine. Actually, a little bit of space is good. So.
Yeah. Awesome. So now that we've got our landing points, as you can see, Sean and I are going to measure around each of these, and then we're going to measure from each landing point to each landing point to each landing point, and then get the first landing point all the way to the floor. So first one we'll do is we'll do that around the waist, and I'll get my feet back to where they were. Do you know what I should have done? I should have put tape on the floor to remind myself where to put my feet. I would suggest doing that.
32 and a half.
Wow, 32 and a half. I've lost a little bit.
Yep.
It was 34. That's great. My gym is paying off. So 32.5. Here, I have to write this down. 32.5 around waist. Around hip is.
37 and a half.
Oh my gosh, I've lost. This is great. 37 around the butt. Is that not slipping?
Just making sure.
Yeah, a little bit lower because that's not my butt. There we go.
42.
Okay, so my butt's gotten bigger. I was 40. It's hard to get that. I'll have to hold it. Mid-thigh,
Up a little bit.
up a little bit.
38 and a half.
38 and a half. We're gonna do these twice as well to make sure they're correct. Knees.
25.
Knees are 25. I think that's pretty standard. Calves.
26.
26.
26.
26. Okay.
Ankle would be 17.
17. So let's do those one more time. I won't write them down, but we'll just make sure that we've got them exactly correct. There's no, it's good to do them twice because if we do them a second time and they're like 2 inches different, we know that something's wonky, right? Is that 32.5?
Yes. This time it's 30. Well, it's a little high.
It is high. It feels high.
32 and a half.
32 and a half. Okay. Around hips.
36 and a half.
So I have 37 and a half from the first one. So where's our line there?
That's our line.
36
Let's
and a
say
half?
37 then. Say 37.
Let's go with 37.
Yeah.
I don't mind if it's a little big in the hips. It's easier to get on.
40 and a half.
So around butt should be 42 and it feels like it needs to be higher. I can tell that it's not high enough. It's not around my butt. There's my butt.
It says 41 now, but it's still on an angle. I think it's gonna come down. Bring it down. Yep, bring it down. Yeah.
It's my biggest part.
So it's 41.
41? Okay. How about, we'll do 41 and a half.
Okay.
Around mid-thigh.
38 and a half.
Yep,
38.
we've got that. Around knees, sorry.
24, 25.
25.
Yep.
Ankles should be 17, or yeah, calves.
24 and a half, 25.
So calves, we had 26.
Really?
So maybe I had them pulled apart
you
too
probably had them
far.
pulled apart too far because let's say 24 and a half.
Okay, we'll go with, I think that's a good 24.5.
The ankle on this one is 16, 15, 16.
I think that's because I just literally, while you did it, I pulled it closer.
16.
16 for the ankle. I think this is where, like I said, it would be good if I put a marker on the floor because I'm shifting my weight and moving my feet around, right? So let me see what she said about feet. So she said feet should be about an inch apart. Can you measure how far apart they are?
Oh, that's more than an inch. It's almost.
That's more than an inch?
It's like almost 2 inches.
Almost 2 inches?
Yeah.
So a little bit closer together.
A little bit more.
Oh, I think my
There you go.
ankles need to be, there we go.
Yep.
Okay, now let's take that measurement. We actually measured to see that my feet were
15 and a half.
15 and a half. I'm gonna go with 16 because
Okay.
I like my
Little ankle room.
ankle room. Okay,
So we're gonna go up and down now?
so we're gonna go from, and we're gonna do this twice as well, we're gonna go from the first landing to the next. The next set of measurements are all gonna start at your waist and be relative to your waist. So you're gonna use that first landing point and it's always gonna start there. So waist to hip,
4 and a half.
4 and a half, and still at waist to butt,
10.
10, waist to mid thigh,
13.
13, waist to knee,
25.
25, waist to calf,
30 and a half.
30 and a half, waist to ankle,
41.
41, and waist to the floor.
44.
44, awesome. I think that green tail that I got from Mer Taylor was 45, so that's pretty cool because that wasn't my measurements. Still 45? Or 44? Yeah, awesome. I'm curious to see what the waist to floor is on this if you measure it. Because it should be similar, even though my other measurements changed.
Let's come up a little bit. It's 42.
Okay, so I've made my mertail a little bit higher, but my booty is also a little bit bigger. So I'm totally okay with the fact that this one is 2 inches taller than that one, because his tails are a bit thicker too. And honestly, I would rather have a tail be too high because I can cut it down than have it be too low, and that's just my personal perspective. So just take away from this, marking the landing points is a really smart thing to do. Make sure you have your helper measure everything twice. The one thing I didn't do that I suggest that you do is put markers on the floor for where your feet are gonna be and actually measure the distance. So we did that after the fact and got better measurements that time. And Candy also suggests actually measuring against the wall. So I feel like measuring against my body is a good compromise for that. So I've got my measurements all written here on my sheet, and I'm gonna send that to Candy. And just so you all have a sense of timing, I paid for my tail at the end of January. It is now June, and she actually contacted me at the beginning of June, and it's taken me 2 weeks to give her my measurements. So that's kind of 2 weeks I have to wait for my tail, right? Because it took me that long to give it to her. So the sooner you give them the measurements, the sooner they can get started on your tail. They can't make a tail bigger, right? But they can make it smaller. So definitely don't be trying to cut inches off yourself. Just be honest with what your body is. Everybody looks good in a mermaid tail. It doesn't matter what your size is, so don't feel weird. And Eric sees all kinds of body shapes and sizes, all kinds of tails, so don't feel weird or embarrassed. Just get your measurements. It's all good, okay? So that is me measuring my tail, and we'll take a look at my tail design. And I'm thinking it's probably gonna be like another month or a month and a half before my tail is actually finished and shipped to me. I am international, so it has to come through customs. Customs can hold your tail for a while, and you have to factor in that you need to pay custom fees on top. Custom fees are typically anywhere from 10 to 30% unless you have a business import number, in which case for us, I think it's 3 to 5% of the total cost of what you're importing. So you need to remember that on top of the shipping and handling fees. So make sure you keep that stuff aside. So I'm really excited. I'm gonna give these to Candy. Remember, this is not an official Mer Taylor how-to video. This is just Raina doing a vlog showing you how to measure. You should always get your source information from Mer Taylor and Candy. And if you have any questions, email the info@themertaylor.com. That's the email. And don't forget to use my discount code to get 10% off all the amazing new Mer Taylor products that are coming out. He's got new tails, new fabric stuff, new clothes. It's amazing. So that's RAINA 10 for 10% off at themertaylor.com. All right, folks, I'll follow up with you when this tail gets here, and we're gonna do a live unboxing, and it's gonna be amazing. Best fishes. And don't forget, you can get 10% off Mer Taylor products. He just launched a whole new line of whimsy tails, men's and women's clothing, capital Raina 10% off. Go get your discount, girl. Let me say that again. Capital RAINA 10. Get 10% off. Sean's laughing at me now. I'm laughing. Okay. Whew.